Welcome to the Fantasy Football Prophet Podcast, hosted by Craig Phillips and Jeff Torrey. Visit us at fantasyfootballprophet.com. And now your hosts, Craig and Jeff.
Welcome everyone to the Fantasy Football Prophet Podcast. I'm Craig Phillips, joined as always by Jeff Torrey, and today we're talking Week 3 action in the NFL. Most of the games are all almost done. We got Rams and Browns are just finishing it up here, 2 minutes left. But we'll go over, I think, the top players of the day, some disappointments. So let's just jump into this thing, Jeff. We'll start with the quarterbacks. We'll go position by position. And we'll just start off at the top, I guess, of the list. It's Russell Wilson that actually had the biggest scoring day in the league with 45.3. Some of that was some garbage time there. I mean, they scored a touchdown with literally no time on the clock. And it didn't even matter. But hey, Russell Wilson does this in games he's down. He puts up huge numbers sometimes. And he's been pretty good now through the first couple weeks of the season.
Yeah. I mean, we're fans, obviously, on the show of him. He's just a very good quarterback. He makes very good decisions. He can move around in the pocket. And you see how that really lends itself, even if he doesn't have the talent around him. The fact that he can extend those plays and people like DK Metcalf can get open. Lockett was absolutely a monster today for him. He threw it to him, I think, 14 times. He targeted him. But and also, in these games, he's asked to do a lot because he is probably the best player on the field for that team. And in doing so, you just know that he is going to have the opportunity to score a lot of points when need be. And Saints were up the majority of the game, and he kind of had to try to do his thing. So, it was great to see him get in the end zone. Obviously, Chris Carson fans are probably a little upset. The fact that all the rushing touchdowns went to the QB. But what can you say about him? He had a phenomenal day, even though they didn't get the win.
Yeah, and this shows, if they get down, they have to abandon the run. Everyone thought just they're going to run the ball all the time. Wilson can't do anything, but, that really hasn't been the case through the first couple of weeks. Week 1, sure. He was only threw 14 times, but then last week he threw 35 times. This week he threw 50 times. So he's going to be able to throw the ball plenty. They're not that good. They're going to be down enough where he's just going to be able to go do his thing. And so it was a great game for Russell. Other quarterbacks on here, Daniel Jones is the second best quarterback in his first game. That's crazy.
And I know he was away as well. You're at Tampa Bay. What do you make of this? I don't know if you got to see a lot of this. He ran in a couple. He looked a lot better than what I thought he was going to do. I don't know. Do you think this is a sign of things to come, or is this kind of a lucky beginning against a nice matchup?
If he actually can run the ball a little bit and run these touchdowns in, that just jumps him up so much more. This won't continue, this 38.2 standard scoring, whatever, but he will, I think he's better than Eli at the very least.
Yeah, I think that is a given now.
And it looks like this is going to be good news for Evan Ingram, is what I think, with Daniel Jones. He's
the big winner, and especially, I haven't heard exactly the timetable or what is wrong with Barkley. I just saw him in the walking boot. But if he does miss any sort of time, Evan Ingram is going to be the number one guy there. So last week was the big disappointment. He definitely rebounded and he came back strong, and you just see what he's able to do. He's a very athletic guy. So that was great to see that Daniel Jones is actually going to help that passing game and not hurt it.
And it looks like, I think Barkley, it looks like it was a high ankle sprain, possibly. So, those usually last that's usually a few week injury. So, yeah, we'll see how that plays out for him. Then Patrick Mahomes just is normally on the list. And this is actually a down week for him, finishing third. But
yeah, he is so good.
He really
you just
is.
Watch him, and when he doesn't score 30 points, you're bummed out. He's just on a different level than everyone else.
And Kyle Allen, this was a surprise. 4 touchdowns for Carolina after Cam Newton's been able to do just absolutely nothing. Kyle Allen comes in, and he looked way better than Cam Newton has looked all season. Wasn't even close.
I know. Once again, I don't know how to judge this one. Kyle Allen exceeded expectations by far. I really thought that a guy coming out having no experience would really struggle. It actually helped out the entire passing. Samuels kind of came alive. DJ Moore got a really nice catch, and then obviously Christian McCaffrey was doing his thing no matter what. But it's going to be very interesting. I want to see if Kyle Allen can actually do it again, because they were going against Arizona as well. which
that's an easier matchup for sure.
Right. But hey, he did phenomenal. The fact that he is in the, the fourth best scoring QB this week, and two of them, their first start, Kyle Allen and Daniel Jones. It was very bizarre. A lot of points being put up by QBs this week.
And then some other guys just had normally good, pretty solid games like they would. Deshaun Watson, Matt Ryan, Dak Prescott, Carson Wentz, all in this normal range. But Jameis, this is the on week for Jameis Winston, right? Like, this is what happens with him. He has these good weeks and you'll have bad weeks. So he's still, despite this, he's the sixth best quarterback of the week. I cannot trust this guy. Like, not at all.
No, and I don't want to keep beating up on teams that have struggled early this season, but you did it against the Giants, right? So you throw that into the mix, and you just realize Jameis is going to be a wild card no matter when you play him. Hey, if you really needed someone and you have to throw out someone, he's a very high upside, very big risk reward type of guy. I would never say never about playing him, but right now he is so sporadic that I probably would not, especially since he was only able to do this against a very subpar defense. But and then Evans was another huge one. When they're clicking, Jameis will throw some touchdowns for sure.
Well, then, okay, Lamar Jackson, this right here actually is a good indicator of what we thought he could be and why we were so high on him, despite the bad week. This is his floor. He didn't throw a touchdown pass, and yet still gets 21.3 points. Like, that's one of the reasons we liked him so much.
Yeah, I am incredibly, incredibly happy with this performance. He went up against a team that is much better on defense than they were last year. And, they game plan for him. They tried to take him away, and he was still able to do a lot of good things. He missed a few passes, do not get me wrong, but he didn't force it. He didn't throw interceptions or anything like that. He missed them long. If the wide receiver or the tight end wasn't going to get it, no one would. I was very, very happy with this. He got 21 points in standard scoring. And if this really is like him having an off game, then he's the real deal. So I was afraid that eventually we would run into a buzzsaw and it would be him and he'd be out of his element and he would turn the ball over and try to force it. It did not happen. Lamar Jackson, I have him on a lot of my teams, but I think he's the real deal for sure.
Then, so Aaron Rodgers, can we rank him even top more than like 10th or 11th? How can we rank him higher than that now? Look, he has 3 games now this season where he's now scored. Let me see, pull up these point totals here. Where do we get? 14.9, 18.4, 15.3. It's, or are we going to look at it like he played Chicago, Minnesota, Denver, all good defenses? That's part of it, I guess. But he's not matchup proof anymore.
No, he's really not. I think this was a little bit of my blind spot. I really thought that Aaron Rodgers could weather the storm, even though I think you pointed out the very big kind of asterisks that you have to put on it. The defense he's going against, all 3 of them, are very, very good. And really all they have to do is key on Davante Adams, which, they really have. So am I going to give up on him? No. If you have him, you're just staying pat. But I am absolutely starting to get a little worried because let's be honest, you're going against Philly and then Dallas. I don't think that they have the defense secondaries that, like Chicago does or anything. But it's not getting all that easier in the next couple of weeks. So, I don't know. He definitely will be. He'll probably still be in my top 10, but he's going to be closer to the bottom of that rather than the top like he usually is.
And how about this? How about Baker Mayfield? Just threw a pick here to end the game.
Yeah, oh, man.
And this is 3 just bad games. I think we were wrong. We were just completely wrong on him. I don't know what to say.
I hate to say it. He has all the toys in the world, and he doesn't look like the same player that he was, in the second half of last year. I don't know what to say about this. Even this, once again, the Rams are pretty good, but he went against Tennessee in the Jets the first 2 weeks, and he didn't do anything special. He's about to hit Baltimore next week. I'm definitely I do not want to play him against that defense.
No, he's going to end up with, 11.7 tonight, I believe, somewhere around there. And
it's going to be the second best game of the year so far.
And it's, you can't start him right now. I don't think you're starting him. Because at this point, you would have wished you picked up like Dak Prescott off the waiver wire, or you go start Kyle Allen and feel more comfortable.
Yeah, next week against Baltimore, it's not too far off, to be honest. It's kind of one of those where we're going to have to wait and see, and he's going to have to prove that he can get back to where he was playing last year, because it just doesn't get it done, and I'm not willing to take a risk when you see how many other QBs are putting up points.
Then let's go running backs here. Top running back of the week actually is Mark Ingram, who was one of the guys that I guess we hyped up quite a bit this preseason. I just never understood why he was ranked so low. I never got it. And this shows right here. I mean, that he's the goal line back. He's getting every carry. They're not actually running it with Lamar down there. They're just giving the ball to Mark Ingram. He scores 3 touchdowns today.
Yeah, it's a thing of beauty if you have Mark Ingram. And we had talked about it a lot, but having a running quarterback always helps in that situation for the most part, unless, the QB is actually vulturing the touchdowns, like, say, Cam Newton. But hey, it's a kind of a match made in heaven. And he's doing this without having, an insane amount of carries. He only had 16. He had 100 yards and 3 touchdowns. So even though he was getting those short distance, yardage at the goal line, his yard per carry didn't really suffer, which is great to see. It's just very difficult to game plan for that offense. And even more so, KC did a pretty good job, and they were still able to put up some fantasy points. So that whole that situation, that running game, I'm really loving right now.
Then Alvin Kamara shows that he can still get it done, even with Teddy Bridgewater at quarterback. It didn't matter. He had his typical game, receiving touchdown, rushing touchdown, big yardage on both. He's not going to suffer. He's too good. He just is.
He's the best player on the field when he's out there. And the very interesting point in this is his number of carries, his number of touches really didn't alter that much. I think the only thing that changed was, some of the difficult passes that maybe Breeze would have made. I think they threw it to Thomas a little less. But Kamara actually stayed very consistent. I think he had, 16 carries and 10 targets in the passing game when he hauled in 9 of them. So he's just an incredibly efficient player that they're going to use the same no matter what. So I thought that was a very good thing to see. And they're not trying to kind of change it up and try to pound him out and just give him the ball more, but inside the tackles. I think the more surprising part was Latavius Murray didn't hardly see the field. I mean, he got actually less carries than he normally would the first couple games, which is kind of strange. So that it's all relying on Kamara's shoulders.
Yeah, completely. Yeah, Murray's kind of disappointing. After game 1, it looked like he was going to be useful, and now it doesn't seem so much to be the case. So
yeah,
we'll watch that. Christian McCaffrey, another good game. No surprise. Phillip Lindsay gets 2 touchdowns on 21 carries. This was kind of an unexpected big game, but it's still a split. I mean, Freeman had 15 carries. They're going to run the ball, I think, because they realize Flacco is no good. So
yeah, you definitely need a run. Yeah, you need a running game when you're with Flacco. Both of them got a lot of work, and I thought both of them looked good. And me and Craig always argue about this one, but I think Phillip Lindsay looks better. He thinks Freeman looks just as good. And
Freeman had a better yards per carry.
Yeah, he did. And but yeah, Phillip Lindsay looked wonderful out there. He runs extremely hard, and he makes things happen. So it's like the little things. And when he was able to back his way into the end zone, it's that kind of thing that I think just gives Phillip Lindsay the edge. But hey, Freeman got a touchdown called back on him as well. So the fight continues.
Well, the whole yards per carry thing again, it shows it doesn't. It's deceiving because I think Phillip Lindsay had like 2 1-yard touchdown runs basically. So of course it's going to drive down his yards per carry.
Yeah.
I mean,
do you have in front of you how many targets he got in the passing game?
Let's see here. Yeah, I do. Lindsay had 5 targets.
I'm sorry, I meant for Freeman.
Oh, Freeman? I don't know how many Freeman had. Freeman had 5 targets as well.
Jeez, okay, yeah, it really is. Like, it is a very, very close split.
It really is between the two of them. I think it's Lindsay's. It's like a 55-45 split, maybe 52-48. It's like just slightly in Lindsay's favor. It feels like. Dalvin Cook continues to be great. So if he stays healthy, he's going to be a top 5 back at the worst this year. Probably top 3.
Man, he looks so good.
He really does. He looks great. If he stays healthy, he's going to have a just terrific season. Then LaShawn McCoy with limited touches gets 20 points in standard scoring, touchdowns running and receiving. It's just, if he's the back in that Kansas City offense, it's going to be good. In the, I'll say the Darwin Thompson people, I don't know, that kind of resurfaced before this week. Like he's going to get work because, McCoy was slightly injured and Williams is out, and that's just not happening.
No, and you saw it too where Darrell Williams actually, outsnapped him and he got 9 carries himself. So I think, the lesson which we've all learned, but if you're going to be a starter on that offense, you can play that person. So McCoy was the starter today, plug him in, you're going to be happy with what you get.
Then some other guys, Tony Pollard found his way up here, but that's because they played Miami, and it was a blowout. So he just did good work at the end of the game, got himself a touchdown. So, But that also shows, I think, if Zeke was ever to go down, I think Pollard would probably be a pretty good replacement. He would do pretty well. Joe Mixon got himself a receiving touchdown to make his day decent. He's still not, putting up great numbers, which what we hope for, but, decent. And then Frank Gore did exactly what we hoped he would do this week when we recommended him as a waiver wire.
He did. It is not a sexy pick by any stretch of the imagination, but our friend, old man Frank Gore, is just chugging along, doing his thing.
Aaron Jones now. He had a respectable fantasy day, but it was only 10 carries for 19 yards. But he got 2 touchdowns. So that yardage was ugly, but
yeah. However it works, I'm good with it. It's just the way the flow of the game worked. Obviously, even Aaron Rodgers didn't have that spectacular game. They were having a tough time moving the ball at times. So the fact that he's going to be the goal line guy, and he's in the goal line or the red zone mind frame as far as Green Bay goes, I think that is the takeaway here. Aaron Jones has, I think, proven himself in the first 3 weeks. I expect this to continue, and I expect more carries than 10, to be honest.
This Jeff Wilson thing, he's clearly the goal line back, too, for San Francisco. Right? He is 100%. That's the only time he's going to play, but...
Oh, man, the plot thickens on this, and we had talked about this at length about, who do you trust there? We like Breida the most, but if Jeff Wilson vultures touchdowns, which it looks like he obviously is going to, and then Mostert, who we were, he actually flashed very high ability, but he put it on the ground twice this week. So what does that do? You just start guessing, and the first quarter, the 49ers looked out of sorts. Of course, as soon as I hype them up and say they look like they could be for real, just unforced errors and fumbles and interceptions that were bouncing off of people. It was very interesting. I want to see if that continued or if this was just a one of those days that kind of got away from them, even though they got the win.
And so, okay, Miles Sanders had a solid game fantasy-wise with what do you have, 126 total yards, I believe. No touchdowns, but he also fumbled again. That was kind of a worry about him, too, before. So we'll see, how that plays.
And the thing about that as well, because we both think that Miles Sanders is probably the most talented back on there, but you put you give the ball away. And on top of that, we saw that when they got close to the goal line, they gave it to Howard, who got the touchdown. That was the big worry. Miles Sanders is going to be in no man's land. He did fine today if you played him, but I see that probably continuing. I just don't like where he's at currently. I think he probably needs a few more games to see exactly how they're gonna use him week in and week out.
Kerryon Johnson. I remember in the preseason, all these people just boosted Kerryon Johnson so high, especially after Lions got rid of Riddick, and just how Kerryon's almost a running back 1 level. And I guess us as Lions fans knew that wasn't the case. 20 carries, 36 yards. It's just, he's not there yet.
No, who doesn't like Kerryon? Yeah.
He's not there. He's not that top. He's just a mid-level running back right now.
Yeah. He did get, you do have to love the workload he got, even though he didn't do a whole lot with it.
Yeah, that's nice to see.
He got the touchdown and 20 carries, but he only had 36 yards. That's rough to see, but they don't have any other place to go. So you can continue using him and hope that he obviously does more with the touches he gets moving forward. But hey, the Lions, where I just want to say this out loud, pinch myself, but they're actually winning. They're unbeaten this year, even though they almost blew that first game and got the tie. But if they keep doing this, they're going to stick to the same concept. So Kerryon will be, heavily featured even when he's not doing well.
So then, let's see, another disappointment here. Sony Michel got himself a touchdown, but he had 9 carries, 11 yards. So in 3 games, his first game this year was 15 carries, 14 yards. So the Miami game was the only game where he did anything worthwhile, 21 for 83, and that's not even that impressive, seeing as what Zeke and Tony Pollard did today. This is a little bit of a worry to me. This is against the Jets. I mean, they should have done a little more today.
Yeah, I mean, okay, this can be a whole thing, and why I get so weirded out when we start talking and playing Patriot players, because they go with the game flow. They don't stick with a certain guy if, for any certain reason. They have a lot of very talented players on that team. They can go a lot of different directions. Sony Michel is, I think, clearly their number one, but they just didn't need him today. So they said, why put undue stress on his body? And you even saw that they tried to do it Tom Brady. They literally just yanked him at, the third quarter? And then as soon as the backup threw a touchdown or a pick for a touchdown for the other team, they pulled him right away too. So it's just going to be one of those things. If they play bad teams and they can get up by a lot, you might not see your favorite player out in the field.
And then Todd Gurley, I'm officially a little bit worried. The crazy thing is the volume's kind of there. It's not that different. 14 carries, 16 carries, 14 carries, but he's not catching the ball anymore. And that hurts. Actually, the offense as a whole is just not as good this year for the Rams. So I don't know. I don't know what to think about this Todd Gurley thing right now.
Yeah, I would be lying if I wasn't worried. I am. I am. I
mean, I would have thought with 14 carries, this is kind of what I expected. Gurley's still going to get these carries, and it's going to turn out, not quite as many yards, but he'll still get some touchdowns. It'll be good, but it's just not there. The 14 carries isn't turning into anything.
Yeah, They haven't used him in the red zone like they did last year. I thought it would be a little more obvious in that respect, but I don't know. I'm not ready to completely write him off. Obviously, the first 2 weeks, he did fine with the same amount of carries, right? And he's only gotten 1 touchdown in 3 games. This was the first game where it just wasn't working. We only got 4.3 points in standard scoring. But, he has Tampa Bay coming up. So I'm not ready to write him off. But it's only worrisome because he's Todd Gurley. He should be getting more work in the red zone. He should be scoring touchdowns. That's what you came to expect, and that's not what we're seeing right now.
And then my final player I have to talk about is James Conner. And this is 3 weeks in a row now. Hasn't been very good.
Yep. It's one of those, you might as well take your bow and say, I told you so, because I don't know if it will get better. And I wasn't a huge fan, but I did not think it was going to be this drastic. Even the amount of carries, 10, 11, and then 13, nothing to write home about. And, I think San Francisco is obviously making strides, but, they shouldn't be able to do this to your run game. And they play Seattle and New England first. So you're about to hit up Cincinnati and then Baltimore. So I don't know. I'm not really happy with that offense in general. And they get a big kind of pass for a moment because Roethlisberger goes down. There's been a lot of shakeup. But Conner should have been the consistent one, you would think. And, so if you're a Conner owner, I think you should probably be starting to worry and thinking, in my mind, I'd be thinking, if I cut bait now, if I'm able to trade him to someone who still believes it after only 3 weeks, saying that maybe the defenses or the Roethlisberger thing, all this stuff could have thrown the team into a tailspin, I would be considering those offers.
And so he hasn't been over 65 yards in a game since week 8 of last year. 65 rushing yards. So it's been a while. So I don't know. I start to look back and realize he only had those 5 big yardage games last year. That's all he had. 5 of them. And maybe it's not that good, but all right. Wide receivers. Talk about some wide receivers here. And by far the top one on the scoring list this week is Mike Evans. 8 catches, 190 yards, and 3 touchdowns. I think this is what Mike Evans does, though. He blows up for these big games, and then he'll disappear in a game or two. So you get the blow-up game today.
Yeah, uber talented. Whatever Jameis Winston is going to allow him to do, he'll go as far as Winston's arm will take him. But Mike Evans is an incredibly talented guy, and that's why we said don't worry about the first couple of weeks. It's only a matter of time before he gets in the end zone, and then he rewards you big time to this week.
Yeah, especially people were ranking Chris Godwin ahead of him this week, and you just don't do that, right? It's just
no, yeah, absolutely no. That's a little too reactionary for that Mike Evans is still young, and what he's done in the past 4 years or whatever it has been, and that track record should hold a little more true, especially after only 2 weeks.
Yeah, and I don't know if it'll continue. He is up and down, obviously. So we'll see if if he comes back next week and doesn't put up the same kind of numbers. But it was really nice to see that, hey, it is there. There's a reason why Mike Evans is great. Then Keenan Allen, 13 catches, 183 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Just a massive game for Keenan Allen as well. That was really good to see. He's had a pretty good start to the season here. 8 for 123, 8 for 98, and 13 for 183.
I was going to say, I think it's more than pretty good. I mean, his numbers are out of this world right now, and the amount of targets he's getting, too, have increased. I mean, from 10 to 15 to 17. He has 3 touchdowns in 3 games, obviously 2 in this past one. And he has Miami coming up, too. I mean, there's no reason why not to believe that he couldn't go for another 100 yards and a touchdown against that team, which is terrible. Keenan Allen is making a real push right now for being... he was already up there, but he looks like the best wide receiver right now.
He's going to be gunning for that list. It's only a couple guys up there right now. I mean, it's him and right. Julio's been pretty solid for the most part, but not this level. And Devontae Adams hasn't been. DeAndre Hopkins even hasn't been.
No, haven't.
Keenan Allen's up there. And Cooper Kupp here has been really good too. 2 great games in a row, and this one was really good.
I'm loving this one, and I think I just love it too because you kind of see him get more and more comfortable when he's out in the field, and finally he got in the end zone. Game number 2 against New Orleans, he finally really looked like himself, and I was like, oh man, this guy's healthy. He's going to do a lot. When he had 5 for 120, this game. 11 receptions for 102 yards and 2 touchdowns. That is the type of player I think that Cooper Kupp can be almost game in and game out. Obviously, this is a lot, but they love to throw to him in the red zone, and he is marvelous in the middle of the field. So I absolutely love him. I'll probably still rank Brandon Cooks ahead of him for now, but it's not that far off from when I think Kupp will be kind of the darling, and he'll be a top 10 wide receiver perhaps.
Yeah, because Cooks had a great game too. 8 for 112. He had 12 targets. He was good. There's
very good.
Those 2 are better than Robert Woods right now, which
we kind of told you about, but it's just one of those things. Those 2 are better, so they get more targets. Robert Woods has taken a back seat to them, even though all 3 of them play a lot. They obviously got Woods involved. And they're, as far as wide receivers go, they're really, really fun to watch because they're blocking and they're running the ball, they're doing reverses, all that kind of stuff. So I think all 3 are obviously playable, but I think Cooks is a safe one. But Kupp is he has been and he continues to be kind of the guy I would want.
And then Tyler Lockett shows why people shouldn't react so much to week 1 after he had the 1 catch, and he's had 2 big games in a row. So that was a little bit premature for everyone to be freaking out. He's fine. 10 catches last week and 11 catches this week.
There's no one else to throw it to. So.
Right. Mari Cooper catches 2 touchdowns. So Mari Cooper is going to continue to be a solid option every week. He's going to have big games, and he'll have games like last week where he only goes 4 for 44, but he's got a touchdown. He's got 4 touchdowns in 3 games now. So
yeah, he might be one of the most surprising players through 3 weeks because he's been able to be somewhat consistent, where that's usually his MO, where he'll have a game like this, but the first 2, would have been 30 yards with no touchdown. But the fact that he is able to get in the end zone game in and game out, and once again, take it with a grain of salt because you look at who they played as the Giants, Washington, and Miami. So I would love to see him do that in week 4 against New Orleans and really see that, hey, this guy is for real.
Then Sterling Shepard looks pretty good with Daniel Jones as his quarterback. We'll see how that continues. We'll have to see more than 1 week to buy in, but it could be something. Julio, another good game, no surprise. So Adam Thielen's up here in scoring because he got the rushing touchdown and then 1 receiving touchdown, but he only had 3 for 55. And both him and Diggs, kind of a worry right now.
Yeah, I'm not starting. I can't say I won't start them, but they would be a flex option probably. But, that offense just has not been good. That passing game has not been good. And next week you're about to be at Chicago. Like, no, thank you. I have no faith in either of these guys right now, even though, Thielen scored 2 touchdowns. I think that is going to be a much more difficult task next week. So I'm very worried about that.
Yeah, Diggs ended up with 3 catches for 15 yards today. So, yeah, that's a little bit scary. And then some other guy, Mecole Hardman, big play guy. That's what he's just going to be. And he's going to have massive weeks like this with only 2 for 97. But with that Kansas City offense, I think it's much more often than not he hits on one of those big plays.
Yeah, like we said, if he's going to be a starter, you just put him in there. And
right?
There's enough to go around with that offense.
Marvin Jones had a good game. He was much better than Kenny Golladay today. Kenny Golladay only had 2 catches. Not much for Golladay, but Jones had a good one. Valdez Scantling, 6 for 99, a touchdown, so he outplayed Adams today. But they're obviously just keying on Adams. We ended up with 4 for 56. And so Adams is interesting. Remember, the biggest talk about him was how consistent he was last year, right? And just was never down. Now he's had 2 games this year where he's had 4 for 36 and 4 for 56. No touchdowns yet. I don't know what that is, honestly. It's again, maybe it's the defenses they've been playing. We'll have to see if that continues. But slightly worrisome.
Yeah, at the price you got him, you should absolutely be, a little upset about it. There's nothing you can do about it at the moment. He's too good not to play, and he's a little too, honestly, he's too good to worry about it this early in the season. So obviously you're just going to grin and bear it and assume that they're going to get back on track. But this is not what you paid for pretty much. So, yeah, for this, I think this is a very good one because Davante Adams, his price tag, like his value, is not as in limbo as other players, right? So you could still get a ton for him. Is this something you worry about so much you would actually field offers, or are you just staying pat?
I'd stay pat. I think he's going to be fine.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah,
I'm not too worried. I really do think it's a lot to do with the early season schedule and playing some good defenses. So I wouldn't be too worried. So we talked about how Kamara didn't suffer at all, but Michael Thomas kind of did in a way. 5 for 54. He got the touchdown, so it was a decent day, but 5 for 54 is not a typical Michael Thomas game with only 7 targets. That's not what we were expecting. Like the first 2 games, he had 13 targets in each of the first 2 games, 10 catches. First game without Breeze fully, and he goes 5 for 54. So I guess it's something to watch. He's obviously you throw him in the lineup, you never don't think about it, but
yeah. Honestly, I looked at these numbers too, and I think the big thing was that's just not what they were comfortable doing with Bridgewater. So, hey, Teddy, his first full game out there, let's keep it simple. So we're not going to throw it to, around the best corner. He got the touchdown. You feel good. The fact that the first game out there, he was still viable, that's good enough for me. I think this is nothing really to look into too much. I think he's a starter no matter what. Dallas, Tampa Bay, Bridgewater will continue to get more confidence, and they will obviously keep Thomas in the loop as far as how they're going to use him. The play that he scored the touchdown on, it was a wonderful little play in the red zone where it was almost like a lateral to him, and then he had 2 blockers. So they're going to make sure that he stays involved. I'm not worried about Thomas.
And same thing, I'm not worried about DeAndre Hopkins, but he's had 2 games in a row where it's not really DeAndre Hopkins-like. 6 for 67 today and 5 for 40 last week. So not great to see, but again, it's no worries. He'll turn it around. I'm not worried about that at all. I don't know. There's no way, right? He'll be better. And then how about I can't believe Sammy Watkins even let us buy in. I mean, 5 for 64. Why did we think Sammy Watkins was all of a sudden going to be like a top 10 guy?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I would like to say I didn't, but I'll be honest, he got my hopes up again. Like like the girlfriend that just will never leave you alone is what Watkins is. It blows my mind. He's so talented, and obviously it's not the worst game ever. But everyone else is scoring touchdowns.
Right.
Why can't he get in the end zone?
There's too many good players on that team. They can throw it to everybody. So it's, yeah. Then, not much else around there. I mean, like, Marquise Brown came down to earth today with 2 for 49. You knew it was going to happen at some point probably, but he's still going to be a good player going forward. So I wouldn't be too concerned about him, but he is a borderline starter. You don't just plug him in necessarily. You don't know exactly what you're going to 100% get from him. But I don't have much else for wide receiver unless you have any glaring one. Oh, Calvin Ridley, I'll say 1 for 6. That was a big disappointment today.
Yeah, that was a big bummer, especially when obviously Julio was doing so well. So obviously you pick your poison, but we haven't seen him completely fall flat like that in quite some time.
And then also John Ross too, 2 for 22. He did what we kind of thought he would be more like. So they're going to be up and down.
Exactly. You know that about him. I'm not that surprised about that one, but yeah.
So over at tight end, Greg Olsen led the day with 6 for 75 and 2 touchdowns. He's really been good this year. He's kind of just become Greg Olsen again.
Hey, he's back. It doesn't matter who's throwing the ball. He's going to be a big part of it. He was in the red zone plans. He's sure-handed. And, we talked about, obviously, the quarterback making his first start. It looked like everyone got involved, even Samuel and DJ Moore, obviously. And but I still think Greg Olsen is kind of going to be the favorite target. So I'm kind of on the Greg Olsen bandwagon again.
Then Jordan Atkins caught 2 touchdowns, only had 3 catches for 73, but 2 touchdowns. And in the tight end field, I mean, that makes you, at least people are going to take notice a little bit. He's going to obviously have to do more than that in the weeks ahead to make him an option, but it's interesting at least. And Austin Hooper got himself 2 touchdowns to have one of his best fantasy days we've probably seen from him.
Yeah, and he's been okay as far as tight ends go. I mean, nothing spectacular. This was his first touchdown of the year, the first 2 actually. But hey, 9 receptions in game 1, then 4 and 6. I look at those numbers, especially for a tight end. I'm thinking, hey, he has that gives him more opportunity than a lot of the other guys. So I think that he is a top 10 play moving forward. Now that you know that he can get in the end zone possibly as well. Yeah, if you're going to give him whatever it is, 5 to 10 targets a game, I'm in.
Yeah, there really is nothing spectacular from the tight ends today. I guess Darren Waller had probably the best, just overall 13 catches for 134. So he's going to be good the whole season. He's a top 10 guy all year long. He's going to be solid. Will Dissly gets himself a touchdown.
Yeah, thank goodness, man. I was, especially after the Garoppolo thing, where I thought he might have been a good streamer and he really burned me. At least Will Dissly did get in the end zone, so that streamer did work out.
Kelsey didn't get himself a touchdown, but still 7 for 89, solid. Ertz, I thought Ertz would do a little bit more with all the receivers out for Philadelphia, and he only ended up with 4 for 64. So, okay, so with Ertz, he's had 3 just kind of lackluster games, I'll say. I don't know. Not great. He did have 16 targets last week, but it still was only 8 for 72. And then George Kittle here gets himself 6 for 57. So George Kittle has had 3 games now where he has just been in the 50s for yardage. 54, 54, 57. And this is really showing that you just I don't think the whole drafting these tight ends early thing was a good idea that was going on. They're just not as safe.
I mean, yes and no. I think they're safer, but you just get such huge spikes with all these guys that if you score a touchdown, it's going to be huge. If not, I mean, would you rather have Kelsey? Yeah, of course.
Well, Kelsey's like the one who just...
Right, okay. Yeah, absolutely then. But yeah, you're right. Ertz and Kittle have not really shown out yet. But I do have to say what I was just talking about with Hooper, they get more opportunity, and I think it's only a matter of time. So I think at the end of the year, yes, they will be, they'll be a top 5 tight end. But week to week, I mean, you almost, not that I would ever not start those guys, but it does turn into who has more of the hot hand type of deal, like you saw with Will Dissly, who, hey, if they're going to throw it to him a lot in the red zone, that makes up for a lot of yardage, especially when most of these guys only get 3 catches a game.
And then some of the guys who had good starts, like Mark Andrews, only did 3 for 15. Hockenson, who had the good week 1, now has done really nothing in 2 weeks. He had 1 catch for 1 yard today.
Yeah, what do you make of Hockenson? I find him very interesting because Mark Andrews, you're still on the bandwagon, I assume.
I still think he'll be fine, but
yeah,
Hockenson, it's just a rookie tight end. It's not going to always be there. He's going to have some more good games. He will, but it's so hard to figure out when they're going to be.
Right. But where do you rank him? Like
he'll be
next
top
week?
20, but he's in the. I mean, tight end is so weak though.
I was gonna say top 20. That's like
he's probably 10 to 15 yet, most likely.
Okay,
for right now.
Right. So he's not a starter in your mind yet.
Not right now. He really isn't. And then other players like Jared Cook. Remember the big Jared Cook hype this preseason, and he's had 5 catches this year.
Yeah, which I absolutely love a little bit. but I mean, to be fair, once again, Breeze going down obviously doesn't help him.
Yep.
But yeah, I mean, yeah, hey, I don't know what to tell you if you drafted him. It's not the end of the world. You probably didn't have to draft him very high.
You can find somebody else.
Yeah.
But
all right. Can you?
I don't know. At this point.
It's tough out there, man. I had to find a tight end for a couple of these, and that's why I was going after Will Dissly so hard.
Yeah, not pretty, but
what do you make of Irv Smith Jr.? So a rookie tight end that plays for Minnesota. They were hyping him a lot, but he's a rookie, so we didn't give it a whole lot of thought. He finally actually shows a glimpse today against Oakland. It was only 3 for 60, but you saw how athletic he is. Is he on your radar at all, or is this kind of like a throwaway?
I mean, he's slightly, because he's probably better than Kyle Rudolph at this point. Rudolph just doesn't do much anymore, it feels like. But I'm just not buying that passing game right now at all. I need to see something more from that entire passing game. But I guess tight end's different. You don't need as much to. I'm not buying it yet. But he's an interesting one to look at, especially if you don't have a tight end. if you're one of those that Hawkinson's your tight end now and he only has 1 for 1. It's just something to watch. I wouldn't pick him up or anything right now. You got to see a little more. But all right, I think that's all I got for week 3. We'll be back tomorrow night with reaction to the Monday night game and some week 4 waivers. But I think that'll do it. Talk to you guys tomorrow.